Hey, what's up guys? How is everyone doing? Today I'm going to be showcasing some gameplay with the new rifles, all the new rifles that got buffed. I've tried all of them extensively in PvP of course, and I want to give you guys my thoughts on the new rifles. I know everyone is wondering, are they good? How good are they? Can they compete with meta? How does it stack up? So I have a few matches first of all that are going to be playing in the background, going through different rifles where the opponent stays the same, so it gives a good idea as to like how this stuff performs versus like the same setup. So for the first match you see me trying, obviously we're going for a stagger into a needle. That's kind of like the idea. We want to see how fast the rifles can stagger. And for the first match we're actually going for charged Curtis laser. And you'll notice that the opponent actually beats us. That's because the laser barely ever landed. So the charged laser, unfortunately, I don't think is really great. I made some adjustment on the next few fights because I was not landing these charged lasers. I decided, okay, this is not the way to play with this linear rifle. Let's try a different strategy. So the newly buffed linear rifle is okay, but I would not say it is the best weapon in the new stuff we got. I would say it probably gets... you would be better off with the burst rifle instead. I think the burst rifle is going to do a better job at staggering your opponent and basically landing shots more consistently. So I would not recommend the Curtis for that. And of course you can charge the linear rifle, that's kind of like the perk of it. But as soon as you're fighting someone that's a bit more mobile, I mean honestly it's very easy to dodge these charged linear rifle shot, as pretty much hear the sound on your screen first. So here in this particular clip you see us adapting to what our opponent was doing. So we just use the assault boost and we don't charge the rifle. That makes it so we do more stagger damage and we do more sustained stagger damage. So that was the adjustment there. That alone was enough to make the difference, because our opponent is using bipedal legs and we're using quad legs. Quad legs have way more stability, so we pretty much make him force trades with us, and that's how we can get the victory. So these are pretty much the linear rifles. Now you're going to see clips of other rifles being showcased here. But the thing is, with the new patch, the weapons that got buffed are not that great right now. They're all okay, but I want to put a big asterisk to that, because they're not they're okay right now and they're not amazing, but I think they're going to be great options on the next patch. And what I mean by that is I'm expecting the next patch that's going to balance PvP more, which has already been announced by Bandai Namco, by the way. We don't know when it's going to come out, but we know it's in the works. So we're going to have the first big PvP patch in the upcoming weeks or so. So the deal is, once that patch drops, the balance overall is probably going to improve massively. And what I mean by that is I'm expecting From Software to get the obvious stuff out of the way. So the fact that bipedal legs have not enough stability and can hardly compete with quad legs and even some tank legs as well. So they're probably going to get that out of the way first. And when that happens, I expect that the Zimmers will also get hit. And while all of these things fall into place, now there's going to be more variety in your choice of main weapon, because all the main weapons kind of like are going to be in the same sort of ballpark in the time it takes to stagger and how well they can be used. Like every single weapon type has their own like favorite range. Like for instance, if you're fighting very, very close range, a pistol will stagger a lot quicker than assault rifles. But if you can stay at medium distance, the assault rifle will have the edge over the pistol, for instance, to build up the stagger. So that's one thing. When that happens, we're going to get a much more cohesive balance between each weapons. Although right now it's mostly just Zimmers, really. So also, right now you're seeing the submachine guns. The round before you saw the burst rifles, like I mentioned earlier. The submachine guns, pretty straightforward, honestly. It's very similar it plays similarly to Gatling, but you land a lot more of your shots. So honestly, in a lot of builds, they might actually be better than Gatlings. Personally, I never thought Gatlings were overpowered in this game. I think Gatlings are actually fine as they are, so I don't really expect or would want Gatlings to be patched. Right now, I feel like there's a really interesting dynamic between submachine guns and Gatlings. I feel like both of them have their use case. The Gatling at very close range can dish out more damage in a short amount of time, but on a sustained amount of fire, because the Gatling will eventually overheat, even if you do burst shots with the Gatling, they will eventually overheat. And because of that, the submachine guns have much faster reload. So your submachine guns are going to do more DPS over time than your Gatling. So there's a very interesting kind of like plus and cons to going for a submachine gun or a Gatling now, which is very interesting because before it was pretty much you're better off using a Gatling, period. But now there's some diversity between weapons that should be used, and it makes it so there's a decision that should be made between either you go for Gatling for if you want that very, very powerful burst damage and powerful stagger. Either you go for submachine gun if you want more sustained stagger over a longer period of time, or maybe you want the assault rifles, the base assault rifles, and the base assault rifles less stagger but more DPS. So now we actually have a structure between all these different weapon types, and it's a nice thing to see. It's a nice thing to see because that definitely improves the balance between everything else. And another comparison to that we don't really talk about a lot, but if we compare that to, let's say, the laser rifles, let's say the assault rifles now are competing with laser rifles in terms of like a weapon that you would use not necessarily for stagger but just for pure DPS. And there's really an interesting dynamic there as well, because your laser rifles will do more damage than your rifles, but because they overheat just like the Gatling, over a longer period of time, the assault rifles are going to land more shots and have much faster reload. So there's a very clear use case for using assault rifles over laser rifles this time around. But it depends on what you're going for. If you're going for, like, you know, pop shots and stuff like that, well, it's going to make more sense to go for laser rifles. But bottom line, there's a use case for different weapon types. It's very interesting. I'm looking forward to playing more on this patch. And these are my observations for patch 1.02 so far. I hope you guys enjoyed this quick breakdown, and I'll catch you guys up later. See you, everyone.